Hey, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host. Glad you could join me. Hope you're having a great off season. Yeah, just about everybody is done, unless you're still hunting a few preserves. And if you are, more power to you. Hope you're taking a newcomer or an old friend. Great show in store for you, continuing our series on how your season went. I'll be debriefing two good friends who have decidedly different stories about how their season went, from locations to, well, everything. You'll get the idea very soon. But that's not all. We're also going to take a look at your dog's diet during the off season in our Fix It segment. I got an argument or two to make regarding that. And then, of course, you'll have a shot at the furfeathersfriends.com Word of the Week monthly prize. And then, of course, now you can take a shot, pardon the pun, at that 4-pack of pointer shotguns. We'll also look at our Wing Shooting USA Facebook page and how your dogs survived the season, if I can put it that way. Yeah, we'll be getting some stories from you on dog health, dog injuries, that sort of thing. Hopefully it'll help you. And it's all made possible by Pointer Shotguns, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, Trulock Choke Tubes, MidwayUSA.com, and Purina Pro Plan Sport dog food. Well, I've talked about how busy the magazine world is for me these days, and sure enjoying the heck out of that. And thank you, all you editors, for keeping me in mind when you've got a need for content. I sure enjoy doing that. It's the best chance for me to be the only thing I'm legally qualified to do, which is teach. So watch for some more stuff. Working on one in particular that got me, thinking about planning ahead. This one's for Gun Dog Magazine, and it was a good reminder that I should do, and maybe you should too. This is what we're working on here at the Linden household, our somewhat annual shot and caught potluck. Yeah. Invite some friends who hunt and fish, and the token mushroom hunter, just because that soup is so incredible, and have them all over for a potluck. Purge the freezers, share a secret recipe, that sort of thing. And relive some of the hunts and fishing trips maybe you've taken over the last year or two. Always fun, fascinating mix of people, and enjoy putting hunting buddies together who I've been with alone, but not with each other. You get what I mean? Try it at your house. Shot and caught potluck. Speaking of what you're doing these days, I asked on all the social media pages what kind of injuries your dog might have had this season, and I found the array fascinating and worth sharing, because maybe you're not planning for some of these, and I thought it would be interesting. Robbie Mulligan, my pup met a javelina in a thicket. Yow. Okay, the pup's okay. Missed any serious arteries and veins, but still scary. Yeah, we used to, back in the day when we were drinking beer out in the Arizona desert, we'd pile back into the truck bed whenever a pack of javelinas ran past. Didn't have to learn that the hard way. Glad your dog's okay, Robbie. Bruce Wondrek, fence snag, 3 stitches, sore feet running in the very dry fields. Yeah, good. That's great. Yikes. Stacy Silman, porcupines. From a dog that's a slow learner, she went back after it and got some more. Yeah. Barbed wire. Travis Hampton, you're one of the first guys I know who knows how to work that stapler well. I've never had any luck, and I even took a lesson from a veterinarian on a dog a while back. Ooh, Jenny and Preston Gardner had a snake bite situation. Oh, you're welcome, by the way. Learned on this podcast about using Benadryl. made it to the emergency vet, down for a week, then then a barbed wire cut. Oh man, yeah. Barbed wire seems to be the recurring motif around here. One scare for Joe Rundell, running through heavy cover, legs, paws all full of blood coming out of her mouth. Yeah. Oh, tongue. Yeah, we've had that with the corgis. They're lower to the ground. So a dog running with their tongue out, which is how they do it, can catch that on something pretty easily. It's like a head wound or an ear wound. They bleed like the dickens. Sandburrs, haven't heard that one for a while, Colin Farrell. And David Whitehurst, cut pad, that's it. Lucky for all of you, and even you, Morgan Walker, a bruised ego a couple times. Then the dog realized, hey, we have to work together, and that puts birds on the ground for him to retrieve. Okay, so we're talking about a disciplinary situation there, and maybe that's the best one to cope with. Glad most of you you all had happy endings there. That's spectacular, and let's hope it continues. There are some things, in fact, that gun dog story I'm working on is about kind of planning ahead for next season, and some of the things you can do, now, whenever now is, when that story comes out, might help you in that regard as well. Whew. That part of the program has been brought to you by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. If you're looking for a hard-to-find gun, whether it's a a gauge that that is hard to locate in the type of gun you want, or if you're just thinking about your next gun, they're always upgrades, aren't they? Do we ever downgrade our shotgun? No way. Anyway, midvalleyclays.com is where you got to start your search. They've always got the small gauges in stock, including the one that is still measured in caliber. That would be .410. Call Dave Fiedler. He's a guru. Go to midvalleyclays.com. Call Dave. Tell him I sent you. He'll counsel you on kind of how to start your search for what is probably the gun you want, but that's the whole point. He'll ask the right questions as a hunter and as a champion sporting clays shooter. He knows what you need to know and is glad to share it. MidValleyClays.com is where you find him. Tell Dave Fiedler I sent you. Talked a lot about, in fact, I will be talking more about dog diet later in the podcast, but ProPlansport.com is where you learn why they are the brand from Purina that fuels the most sporting dog champions. Yeah, whether you're out to win the game in a trial or a hunt test, or you just want your dog to have the best nutrition for the next day in the field, Purina Pro Plan Sport is my choice, Flick's choice, and the choice of most champion dog handlers. Your dog needs nutrition that performs as hard as you do and as they do. ProPlansport.com. I know it's out of tune and I got to fix that sometime soon, but that is probably the most appropriate introduction for my friend Lance Larson. Lance is a craftsman of high regard. He can carve anything into anything. And then he makes some cigar box guitars, among other things. And Lance, I sure enjoy having that one from you. Thank you so much for sending it, and welcome to the Upland Nation podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be on.
I still toast all my dogs out of your ale horns and appreciate those as well. I sure miss not being able to hunt with you after that wonderful time we had in Kansas, but that's a story for another day. In the meanwhile, you're going to give us a debrief on your season, and hopefully we'll learn something from that, maybe places to go or not go. But start with your background. We met at Fur Feathers Friends in Topeka, Kansas many years ago, and everybody had at least I like to think everybody had a good time. But pick up the story and tell us a little bit more about You and particularly your hunting and your dog worlds?
Well, I got a chance initially to get my first. I have Weimaraners. I got my first one as an adoption, but he was a good little dog, But I really wanted to have a true bird dog, one that was bred for birds and everything. And I looked around, and I found one breeder that could help me. It was close to us, and this was close to 8 years ago, and I got Zane. And Zane has been a hell of a dog for me. He's gone to Kansas a couple of times.
Yeah.
He's very good until he gets sick of picking them up. He's very good retrieving doves, but he gets sick of the feathers. And he's got a hell of a nose for quail, and we've done a lot with him as far as training. He has been in trials. I'm a member of our local bird dog club. The Arizona Pointing Dog Club has been around for almost 50 years, and they have all summer they have trials up in the mountains. So we've done a lot of those. It's kind of a training trial to get the dogs ready for the season every year, and we did that this year too. So it was a lot of fun. I also got a second little Weimaraner a couple of years ago. And she's a good little girl. Her daddy was a national champion, a field trial champion. So she's a hellion when she gets out there. Can't even keep track of her. But this year she was so good. She actually placed in the season-long competition in the hunt club, in our pointing dog club. So I knew we were ready to do some quail because we had some fun, but. We know I'm in Arizona. Arizona had a really good population of quail, but my luck was not with us. A few times we got out there that we didn't find too much. We got them there, and with gambles and scalies, or some people call them blue quail, they're runners.
Oh yeah, and that's been my experience as well.
Now that's something Zane is not going to train. He's not going to chase him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He'll try to go on point, and if I push him ahead, he'll run and get another point. But you can't. It's really tough on quail if none of them will hold. So it was, and slowly and surely, he's getting to be the same way. So I didn't. The first two times we went out, it was terrible. I didn't have anything for them, but we did get a chance to get one here and there. So we got. They're at least getting their nose going, but it wasn't a great season as far as harvest, but it was a fantastic season as far as experience.
Well, it's funny you bring up those scalies, because my very first experience on them was much like I think you're describing. We were down making a TV show kind of on the corner. In fact, they said, oh yeah, you fly into Texas, you drive to Colorado, and then we hunt in New Mexico, or whatever it was. It was somewhere right in a little spot like that. And they said, well, let's do some scale quail now. And I said, okay, great. Well, pile in. Well, keep your gun with you. What? We're going to drive, and then when we see him, pile out, load up, and start running. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to show that on TV. But we ended up same as you. Once in a while, we get some dog work out of it. But you hunt gambles as well down there, don't you?
Yeah, that's what we probably got a better chance at. We had more chances at gambles, but they're runners. They're not as bad as scalies, but they're runners too.
Yeah. What kind of country are you hunting for gambles quail? Describe the landscape.
All right, it's just a desert, just desert and scrub brush.
Yeah,
is about it. Along with some trees, and every once in a while you're going to find a little draw where it has a lot more brush. So you're walking along any place that's got a little heavier cover is a chance you're going to find. The key to finding anything is you got to know that there's a little bit of water somewhere close.
Yeah, and what is that down there? You're kind of the Casa Grande country, I think. At least that's how we used to say it when I lived in Tucson. what kind of water sources are those? Are they just low spots that caught a bunch? Is it a seep or spring or what else?
A lot of times it's low spots.
Yeah.
But in low little draw areas that hold the water. Sometimes there's canals that go through, that have them. And the Game and Fish Department builds waters in various places, water catches.
Yeah, guzzlers.
So you find those every once in a while when you're out hunting.
Yeah, and a real treasure when you do. In fact, a lot of the chukar hunters up in our country will hunt nothing but guzzler to guzzler to guzzler. And I don't know. We can debate that someday, but it does remind you of how critical water is sometimes. Do you think Arizona had a good hatch this year? It sounds like the state as
I would say it was an average hatch.
Okay.
The reason I say that is around my area, I'm on the edge of Casa Grande. As we're driving down the roads, we'll see just driving on the roads in town. I mean, we'll see gambled cubbies, running across the road, and then you'll see the babies. And certain different years I've seen where I'll see a nice group of a pair with a nice group run across, and it's in May or something. And then there's those years that you'll see a cubby going across, a bunch of young ones with their mom and dad in August and September.
Yeah.
So they've had a second hatch, and those are the years I know we've got a great year when it's been such a nice year that they have two hatches.
Is it like Texas is the kind of the poster child for this stuff, but is it all about when the rain comes for you guys? It
is. It's all about the rain. It's all about the rain because rain is feed. You're not going to have, if you don't have rain, you don't have insects for the babies. You don't have the greenery. We got to have some sort of rain, and we had some. It wasn't as much as other years, but we had a good hatch, but I don't think it was great as far as my experience of what I saw with the birds. What
about this year? We're in the midst of a thaw right now, if you want to call it that, but we had just a torrential rainstorm for a couple of days here. Timing maybe a little bit early, but what do when is the first time you really want to see a downpour in Arizona for good quail hatch?
I want to see as early. Personally, I think earlier the better. So that it gets into the land. Yeah, you're right. If you're lucky enough to have enough rain that all of a sudden you're starting to see some of the bushes out in the desert actually green, and a bit of green grass on the ground, you're going to have a pretty decent season because you got enough water. Yeah, and it will, like you said, the moisture will stay in the soil. So if you get it a little sooner than you thought, maybe you can cross your fingers and hope you don't have a wind that dries it out or something like that. Yeah. Luckily, we don't have that here. We don't have wind. That's something I've heard about. Oh, God. Yeah, but you do have rain. I'll never forget sitting up in the rincons. Oh, God. When we do, we have it, yes. If you were going to kind of reach back into your memory from what your season really starts, what about mid-November, I think, in Arizona. What was the highlight of your quail season? The highlight of my quail season would be, here I tend to not start my quail hunting on the opening day. Yeah. And the reason being, I'm just a little bit leery of snakes. I want it to cool off a bit. So even though it may start, I may not, we have two seasons. One starts, in like October with Gamble's quail and scale quail. And then on about December 10th or somewhere about there, the Mearn's quail opens, which is the one that's in the far south of the state. And that's the place I love to go hunting because you go there, you go south, and as crazy as it sounds, you're also going a little higher elevation. So you got grasslands and oak, scrub oak. Yeah. And that's where you find it. And I just love if nothing else, watching the dogs run through that, because they enjoy that. It's not near as tough on their pads.
Well, you make a good point, and it is kind of almost a bucket list bird for a lot of people, and I understand that, including me. But it is way different. How do you describe hunting, your strategy or tactic for a Mearns versus what most of us relate to?
Well, I guess more than anything, you kind of got to first off know that that's a good area. Yeah. And the way I know that is that maybe you're talking to friends and stuff. But as far as when you're there, it's really tough to find the perfect spot to find them, because, you can walk the side hills, the shady side hills, and you can find one or two there, or a cubby or so. And you can also find them out in the middle of top of a hill in the grass. They're everywhere. There's no real spot. It's kind of like when I was years ago back home in North Dakota when I was hunting Sharpies. You never know where the hell they jump out of.
You just got, well, a big running dog will help in that regard. And then... Oh,
yeah, that's true. It doesn't hurt at all when you're talking about Mearns, but the nice thing about Mearns is they're the quail that hold.
Yeah.
They will hold for a dog, so it's kind of nice.
So even my dog might look good in Mearns country. We'll find out real soon. I'm looking at that, but I'm waiting for some cooperation from Mother Nature on that one.
Well, I'll tell you what. Sometimes they hold a little too much. The first time Zane got exposed to them, he had one on point, and it jumped up right when he was pretty close to his nose.
Yeah,
and it flew right into a little cat's claw bush,
Yikes.
And it got caught.
Okay, everybody, if you're not from down there, that's a kind of cactus. So yeah, it's kind of like Velcro.
It flew into it, and it's a cactusy bush, and it didn't mean to, obviously, and it got stuck. And Zane walked over and grabbed it, and then brought it to me. That was his first Mearns. He held it, but he thought, well, it's not going anywhere. Young dogs there. At least he was nice enough to bring it to me.
Those are the quail you serve to your guests when you're having your shot and caught potluck dinner.
I just rather get a nose full of cactus.
Yeah, because
he was very careful picking it out.
That's the one. It's kind of got like I'll call it a pod, and it'll come off and it'll stick to you, won't it?
Yeah. That I think you're talking about what's called a choya.
Jumping cactus. Yeah.
Jumping choya. Yeah, this is a little different, but yeah, you're right. That's the one. If there's any type of choyas, if I pull up to Hunter Place and I see choya, I just turn around and leave. Well, because my dog, it's not safe. It's not anything you should put a dog through.
Well, Ronnie Smith years ago, I said, well, every once in a while I have to stop and pull these cactus quills out of my dog. He says, because he guided down in South Texas for 2 decades. He said, eventually the dogs learn how to pull them out themselves. I haven't had the experience nor the patience to wait for that to happen. But
I just do not put my dogs through that learning curve.
And they'll learn, even in North Dakota, but South Dakota, Montana, there's cactus all over the place.
You bet, they're little guys.
Yeah, and usually they're low growing and you can't see them, but the dogs learn to avoid them. How they figure out how to do this? They got 4 feet, 4 times the risk twice as much risk as we do, yet they're running full tilt. And they're avoiding most of those cactus on the ground. How that works is beyond me.
Well, there's lots of cactus that don't go flying all over with their quills like a choya does, so they can avoid like prickly pears and stuff like that. But boy, those choyas they're just hell for a dog. It's terrible.
Yeah. You do quite a bit of trialing, and congratulations again on some of your recent successes in that world. Some of us look at this and they think, well, how can you field trial or hunt test in a place like Arizona during the off season? It's so dang hot all the time. Now I know better. I used to hang out in the White Mountains up there, or even just go up to Mount Lemmon when you wanted to cool off from Tucson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you guys are running dogs in this stuff. How high are you going, and what kind of habitat are you running dogs in during the summer to do a field trial?
In the summer, I'm very active with our local club, which is the Arizona Pointing Dog Club. Been around for about 50 years here, but we go north up into the mountains near Flagstaff.
Yeah.
And so we're up at we're a mile high, but I will tell you that it still gets 85 degrees in the middle of the afternoon sometimes.
Okay.
And it's tough it can be tough on the dogs. A lot of times you're really praying that you're first brace out of the day.
Yeah. But you're still doing it. We have the same problem. Hey, I live in the desert too. It's a little bit higher elevation, but probably matching where you guys are during a summer trial. How do you manage dogs in 85 degree temperatures?
Well, as far as luckily we don't have to worry about our camp spot, because the places we're at have pines, so we camp in some shade. But when I'm managing them, there have been times I've watched my dog, and after they're 30-minute runs, and I have said no. After like 20 minutes, I'm looking at him or her, and I'm saying, no, she's done. Yeah. We're just going to walk back.
Yeah.
Because the trials we do are shooting trials. We don't. We're actually hunting trials and shooting quail. It's not like an AKC trial, which we've done too, where you just find the bird and say, "Nice bird," and walk away.
Yeah. So, are you? Do they stage some water sources along the way, and do you wet them first or anything like that?
You bet. There's a trough. There's a tub of water at the starting gate. There's a big tub of water right dead center in the middle of the bird field.
Yeah.
So and these dogs know, because a lot of them are running along and they'll just head over to the bucket and jump in and roll over and take off after birds again. Yeah,
it's funny. They do learn that if you do it enough.
Yep.
One last thing, because this is, I'm obsessing about a story I'm writing now for Gun Dog Magazine, but after this past season, what are you training for during the off season that possibly you were reminded of during the season?
Well, for me, it's with my young dog,
sure.
Young little girl Z, and she is very good. I mean, I can whoa her anytime, as long as there's not a bird in her nose.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get her to get her ears to open up once she smells a bird, basically, because she doesn't. Getting her to whoa at that every time on that bird when she scents it, and to hold. That's the main thing. She certainly can find them. She's holding them, but get that hold to last. And let her stay there until I shoot.
Everybody, including Lance, go back and listen to the podcast I did with Clyde Vetter. Just search for it, and he'll help you with that. It's all about more than one bird in the same spot and how you bring the dog back to it. We'll end on that note. Lance Larson, tell everybody where they can learn more about all of your artistic endeavors, because everybody here should own something made by Lance Larson, whether it's a cigar box guitar or anything else.
Well, I have a website that's Lance Larson Studio.
Great.
And it's at lancelarsonstudio.com. I also, on Facebook, I have a company page that is for my lasering business, which is Gray Dog Custom Laser.
Excellent. And
wonder where I got the name, right?
I love it. Yeah, take a look at his stuff, everybody. I believe strongly in Lance's artistic abilities, and you will too. Lance Larson, we got to get together, whether it's Kansas or somewhere else. I'll see you this year.
If you ever get close, let me know. At least have lunch.
Absolutely. It's on the short list. Thank you so much for being part of the Upland Nation podcast.
Thank you so much for asking me.
And the rest of you, hang tight because we got a lot more to talk about. In our Fix It segment, we'll talk about the care and feeding, literally, of your dog, our word of the week, and our monthly giveaway. And then, of course, your chance at a shot, pardon the pun again, for a 4-pack of pointer shotguns, just for clicking a couple times and typing your name in. It's all coming up after these words from TrulockChokes.com. You know, I can't stress enough how important it is to get on these mailing lists, because then, number one, you know when those Chad Hodge upland chokes are available, like now. You would get the word first. So sign up at TrulockChokes.com. Get on their email notification list. There's also a promotion or a sale or added value of some sort just about all the time. So browse around. Remember, they got a lifetime warranty on everything they make. Satisfaction guaranteed. TrulockChokes.com. Yeah, and if you're shopping, if one of your New Year's resolutions was to upgrade your shotgun stable, maybe with a side-by-side or an over and under if you're shooting something else, start your search at pointershotguns.com. Your gun is probably in stock at a pointer dealer. Yeah, they're getting new guns in every week and getting them down through the pipeline ASAP. If it's your turn to put something under the Christmas tree a little bit early this year, go to pointershotguns.com, spec out your ideal upgrade, whether it's the color of your Cerakote or the case hardening, the configuration, it's all there. Make your list, find your nearest dealer, and go. Well, this will be fun because I haven't seen him for so long. First time I met him was in a little tiny parking lot in a little tiny town with a little tiny cafe. And I was admiring another wire hair. You know, don't tell Flick I was doing that. But anyway, it turned out to be my friend Omar Alyahya's dog. How's that dog doing, Omar?
Oh, she's well gone.
Yeah.
That Nelly, that was a long time ago, like 2005 or 6,
wow.
If I recall. Yeah, she's long gone. I've gotten 2 more dogs since. I have Gracie, another wire hair, who's about 10. She'll turn 10 on the 8th of May.
Okay.
And I've got her niece. And I let my 11-year-old daughter name her, and she chose the name Peanut.
I like that for a dog. That's pretty clever, yeah.
Yeah, and she was a small little pup. And by God, she is towering her auntie. She'll turn 3 on the 16th of April.
Well, how's she doing so far? 3 is about when they start acquiring brain cells.
I would have to agree with that 100%. She actually started out really lights out, very good. And then when she turned a year and a half, we did the NAVDA NA test, and Scott, she just decided to be a teenager, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
And she received perfect scores across everything except the pointing part because she wanted to grab those birds, and we managed to pass with a prize 3. But she's doing good now. This season, finally, she realized. If I don't point, we don't get birds. And you know how much they love to have that bird in their mouth.
Well, you've just kind of summed up exactly what we hope they'll acquire sooner than later. And that is that idea that 2 and 2 actually does equal 4, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And so how'd you get into this game? You know, let's tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the bird hunting world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you know this probably. I was born and raised in Kuwait. I moved to the States in '96 for college. And then I met my now wife, who's from Fort Klamath, about 2 hours south of Bend.
I love that country, by the way.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. They live right there on 62 with Crooked Creek running right through their property. Her dad is an avid hunter, big game, deer and elk. And I love, the outdoors. And growing up, I hunted birds mostly and fished a lot. Mm-hmm. So he took me under his wings and got me doing the big game hunting. That was in 99, 2000 season, if you would. And so I enjoyed it. And in 2002, I got hired on by a company here in Central Oregon, Bend Research. I was a fresh graduate from Oregon State with my chemical engineering degree. I moved to Bend, and at Bend Research, I met a mutual friend, Bruce Redden. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Bruce was an avid chukar hunter, and that's all the stories I heard from him. Gotta go chukar hunting. And boy, I went, as they all say, you go the first time for fun, and then the rest is just trying to get revenge, and you never get even.
Absolutely true. Well, I'm glad to hear that Bruce made another convert there. That's wonderful news, and we'll get back to that aspect as well. But I'm just a little intrigued. You're growing up, you're bird hunting, but you're fundamentally in the Middle East. So
correct.
Tell us a little bit about how you hunt birds in Kuwait.
It's mostly really mourning doves and other kinds of doves. Uh-huh. We do have the Coturnecks. They do migrate through there, and they do it different over there. It's, you're shooting birds. There's even these sand grouse that they go after. They do falconry for different kinds of bigger birds. We call them habara. I don't know what the English name is for them. And they usually use peregrine falcons or similar birds that they've trained. For the Coturnecks, they use these calling machines at night with floodlights. And as they are passing through, they come to the noise and the light, and you just shoot them, which really there's no sport to it. It's more or less, get something to eat.
Yeah.
If you would. But yeah, and the dove is the same thing. You go around, it's desert. So you go where there is water or there is some sort of vegetation, and you catch them on the edge and you shoot them basically. It was the whole, I guess, the suspense of actually getting the bird, if you would. But over here, I feel like it's more of the science of figuring out how to actually excel at it, if you would.
Yeah, and so a lot of people would relate to that kind of bird hunting as more like many forms of big game hunting that people do, whether it's with calling or with baiting for bears, for example, that sort of thing. But over here, how did you find the difference? Obviously, working with Bruce, you had at least a dog on the ground. That probably changed your perspective dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. It was the love of the game to start with.
Yeah. And
really, Scott, the love of the game transitioned into, I want my own dog because I want to go do it on my own.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when I got Nellie, and we went out, and that love of the game quickly, after I think 2-3 years, transitioned into the love of watching my dog work and seeing how they go and learn new things, and the mistakes that they've made before are now, covered, if you would, and they're making new mistakes, and they're growing as a dog. I will be completely honest with you. I used to be a huge big game hunter, and I would say I spend more time on upland game bird hunting side of things and dealing with dogs. And I mean, it's evident. I have two wire hairs, and Gracie is nearing retirement. After 10, they slow down. And probably once she's gone, Peanut will get another buddy that will, learn from her and take over. But to me, that's where I, really got into it, is where watching the dogs and the stuff they do. Just about the time you think you've seen it all, you see something new. And that's absolutely amazing.
It is, and we're all grateful for that. That's, of course, what we want out of the experience, no doubt about it. I'm a little embarrassed, because we are often probably within 5 miles of each other over there in those spots that you and I know about.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about your season. Primary birds you were chasing, and how did it go?
Mainly chukar. I love chasing those little red-legged devils, I should say. They're fun, and my God, I heard we are part of this one group on Facebook, and I heard a lot about, and it's a Nevada group, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
they've referred a lot about the bird population is going to be the best in the last 30 years that we've seen. And, I've got a good perspective. I have a 20-year perspective. When I started, it's 2004. And so I've seen what it was then, and I've seen how the bird population goes up and down. And I measure it by the number of coveys I run into and the size of the covey. That gives me a good indication of how healthy the birds are. And by all means, those people are absolutely correct. The coveys, every time I've gone, I've seen anywhere between 8 to 12 coveys, and each covey is 30, 40 birds strong. Some were even bigger. And surprisingly enough, even in end of November, there seems to be birds that were awfully young. And you can, if you've hunted chukars, the big coveys with the young birds, they seem to hold tighter, more so than, older birds. Older birds are a little wiser. They've learned, they know what a bird dog is, and they know what a two-legged hunter looks like, and they usually try to shimmy out before you get to them. But we've had a wonderful season, honestly. I think we've gotten several limits. And I take people with me. I love seeing people just fired up about seeing, the birds and shooting a chukar. As you and I know, you could be a good shot, but shooting your first chukar is no easy chore.
Well, that's the understatement of the day. You talk about great bird population. I got another way to measure it, and it's almost comical, because I'm not a very good shooter, but I have enough birds in the freezer that I am eating game birds for lunch, not just for special occasion dinners.
Wonderful. That's a great way to measure it as well. Absolutely.
You and I share the chukar DNA, and it is something that a lot of people are very interested in. I'm interested in your perspective on how you hunt these birds. First, let's cover one of the more curiosities I noticed this year. After the weather cooled, every bird went another mile or two up the hill. Was that your experience as well?
It's funny you say that. I actually noticed the opposite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What I noticed, Scott, is I hunt the tops, and the tops turn white.
Yeah.
And as soon as the tops turned white, actually most of the birds were down lower. And in like drainages that usually they're not in, which was surprising. I don't know if it's the fact that they had a lot of young birds and they found better protection down low, or what it is. But my God, I'll tell you this story. We were parked at the bottom of a ridge that I climb, and it's a fairly good-sized ridge. I mean, it's a mountain.
Yeah.
And I let the dogs out, and, they're excited. That's just what they live for, and they were running all over the country. And I let them. I want them to get that extra energy out of them. And this was outside of the Alvor Desert. And so I, and while they're ripping around, I just pull my gear. I make sure that I have enough water for them. I got treats for them. They run a lot, and they need that energy stores to be, replenished, if you would. And so I make sure there's enough fluids and treats and goodies for both the dogs and myself. And I was telling my friend, what to do and what to look for. And I, and I hollered the dogs' names, and they didn't come.
Oh, boy.
And we're down in the bottom, and I thought, what is going on? And I turned and I whistled, and I've got usually a sequence. I do a whistle, and then after the whistle, I buzz them with my e-collar, and then it's just a vibrate. And usually by the time I whistle, they come back. But if I vibrate, they definitely move. 95% of the time they come, and if they don't, I know they're either on point or they're way too far out. And my dogs usually don't go that far out. And so I looked at my buddy. I said, "Where did they go?" And he said, "They went back that way and was behind us in the flat." And I thought,
Yep.
So I walked back there, and sure enough, they were both locked up on point, and about, oh goodness, I don't know, 50, 60 bird cubby come up when I got there. And by God, we haven't even started the hunt. And I had 3 birds down between my buddy and I.
Wow. That is incredible.
So, and so, Scott, I thought, wait a sec. What's going on here? So then I went up the ridge. But my God, I didn't see anything. And so I went to the end of the ridge, and I dropped down, and I hunted that valley back to the truck, which is, about a 2-3 mile walk. And by God, just about every cubby was down in the valley there, which from that point on, I started hunting my spots, and I would not go up on top, and I would hunt in the valleys and then hook on if I didn't find them, I'd hook up on the mountains and come up on top, and then, circle back to the pickup. And, the majority of the time I found them down in the flats down below the ridges, which interesting to me.
But yes, and I think that country, and I was probably up there several times, one ridge over from you. There was water everywhere.
There was
every stream by the middle of the season. Most of those streams are dry. But they all were running up till closing weekend, and it changed the dynamic a little bit. My luck was starting at the bottom of a stream and walking uphill until I ran out of hill or ran out of birds, and several times. And you've had this experience, maybe there. You'll find quail in the lower parts, and as you keep going up, at some point the chukars say, "No, this is our turf," and it was to a large degree, I think, because there was water everywhere, that they could be anywhere, and they probably found lots of other things to like about that lower elevation as well.
Mm-hmm. And the point about the water, Scott, is 100% agree with. Also, we've had moisture, and then we've had decent days, really like sunny and close to 50, and sometimes mid 50s. And surprisingly, the very last day of the Oregon season, which is the end of January, what was that? That's the 31st, which was a Friday. I took the day off and I went out hunting. And by God, for the 31st of January, there was fresh green shoots everywhere, on the south slopes. And that, to me, is a great sign. There's feed everywhere for them. And the other great part about it is the coveys were still 30 strong. So we've left enough seeds for the next season. Hopefully that, heavy wet snow did not impact them that we're seeing these days. But there was plenty of birds left.
Well, I'm glad to hear other people have the same experience, because, as you say, it bodes well for the coming season. You cover a lot of ground, and you've probably come up with some strategies and tactics that other people would benefit from. Is there any? We know you start at the bottom and you often go to the top. Are there other things you do that perhaps we should learn more about?
Upland game bird, they like protection.
Yeah.
And they like to be out of the element. And so when I look at new country, I look for what I call saddles and protected saddles.
Yeah.
It's basically ground where they can feed south facing slopes, where they can find feed, especially later, in December and January. And that country, the wind is going to whip there and it's going to be cold. And so they need to be in a place where they're protected. And so those are the areas I look for. And of course, a little bit of rimrock goes a long way, because rimrock holds heat a lot more, and therefore snow melts. Things grow around rimrock a lot faster than, just dirt. And so I just, when I'm feeling, like I need to learn a new area, that's what I go on my Onyx, figure areas of that sort, and then I go hunt around there. And obviously the water source is a must.
Yeah.
You can have the perfect looking country. If there is no water, especially during the summer, them birds are not going to be around.
I would only add one thing to your description. When you say saddle, for first thing that I would say is, you mean if we're halfway up the slope and there's a nice level spot, that's where I'm finding them. And then there are bowls up there as well that are not just flat, but maybe a little indented. And again, there's no wind at the bottom of that bowl, while it could be blowing a gale at the edge. And those kind of things end up being more and more crucial as the habitat skinnies out. So that's a good tip. How about your dogs? In general, how did they do this season?
They did wonderful. Peanut as a puppy, she learned a lot, and she's come a long ways. I think I told you I come off the season of her being a teenager, and as you mentioned, at 3, that's where they settle down. So she is well on her way toward settling down, and she's figuring out, she honors her auntie very, very well.
Nice.
But also sometimes she does this like, hey, auntie's getting all the birds. And I'm telling you, Gracie is a fantastic pointer. I've had stories where I've left her, for minutes on a point while I'm dealing with the pup. And, I see her on point down below me, and I go to see what this pup is up to up on the ridge. And by the time I come back, that dog is still on point. And I would go down, and I mean, I'm talking minutes.
Yeah.
I go down, and birds come up, and I chew, and then she'd go fetch the bird. So no, the dogs did wonderful. I look forward to even better season next year. As Gracie slows down, I look for Peanut to pick up that slack. And, it's always not soon enough.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm going to ask you one more, and then I'm going to turn you loose. But we come from different places. We share the same passion. But you may have something in your vest, a piece of gear that you bring along that perhaps we haven't thought of. Is there anything in there that you can think of?
Anymore with all the vegetations and where we hunt, the one thing that I highly recommend for everybody to have is a good rite aid kit.
Yeah.
For you, and most importantly for your four-legged buddies that are hunting with you.
Yeah.
And the one tool that I cannot say enough about is some sort of little cutters.
Yeah.
And let me explain why. A dog gets into a snare or wires, you can use that cutter. The other thing that you could use that cutter is if your dog gets tangled up with a porcupine. Those quills, unless you cut the tips, you're not going to get them out of your dog easily. And so that's something I highly recommend for everybody to carry with them.
Yeah, and I would just suggest that if you're worried about snares in particular, make sure it's a really good, high-quality cable cutter. There is specifically a cable cutter out there. So good tip. I will make this promise to you, Omar, that when we're both in the general location of that little cafe with the little parking lot, we will get together this season. I promise you.
That sounds wonderful.
Omar Alyahya, thank you so much for being a part of the Upland Nation podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you, Scott. You as well.
And you hang around. I've got the Fix It segment, the do's and don'ts of dogs' diet. Wow, say that 4 times fast. In the off season, coming up after a word from MidwayUSA.com. Yeah, this is the time of year when you are getting ready for the next season. If you're not pumped up after that discussion, I don't know what's going to do it for you. Maybe you need a shot of adrenaline or something. But so start thinking about the things you're going to need now. Pile them all up into one big order. Sign up for the MidwayUSA.com email or text notification and save 10% on your entire order. Free shipping on clothing orders over $99. Customer satisfaction is their number one goal. MidwayUSA.com. They've got ammo. That's where I get mine. If you're looking for specialized ammo, they've got it. Make your order now so that you're not disappointed come opening day. And shoot better? Yeah, I'm doing my best, and I keep getting calls and emails from people asking, what's that thing on the end of your muzzle? It's a high-vis sight, HIVIZ sights.com. I'm shooting better than I ever have, and the only change is a lot of lessons from Vandy Fiedler at Mid-Valley Clays and those high-vis light pipes on the end of my muzzle. No matter what the conditions, dark, light, cloudy, bright, there's a light pipe for every one of those, and you can interchange them easily. They will cause you to see the muzzle with your mind's eye while you're seeing the target with your real eye. Hey, it works. Watch the video at high-vis-sights.com. Well, as they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of dog food or something. So this week on Fix It, we're going to take a look at that very topic. Now, a lot of folks, and I understand, if you're pinching pennies, You're going to swap out and use a cheaper dog food in the off season thinking you're saving money. And you are. But you may be causing more harm than good if you want your dog to perform at its peak come opening day. It takes a while for a dog's metabolism, and by a while, I mean 60, 90 days for a dog's metabolism to change, either transitioning out of the good stuff into the less expensive stuff, and then ramping it back up at the beginning of the season. So if you still do that, well, you've got your own reasons. If you are just afraid that you don't need to give your dog a high quality food during the off season, and he might actually put on weight, simple, feed less. You're not going to starve your dog. Just take a look at that dog from above him, see if he's still got a waist. You're feeding just right. Rather than swap out foods and hope that your dog's muscles and bones, nerves, and ligaments all recover and start processing the good stuff in time, don't go off it. Hope it works for you. It works for me. And welcome to the furfeathersfriends.com big time giveaway. Yeah, we're in March, so every entry makes you eligible for that 4-pack of pointer shotguns, plus monthly prizes. Just go to furfeathersfriends.com, scroll down, give me your name, tell me who you're going to take hunting, and then you're entered to win. If you add the word of the week, you're eligible for the monthly prizes. Everybody who enters is eligible for the 4-pack of pointer shotguns. This month, the prize is a set of Trulock Chokes, those Chad Hodge signature model upland chokes. The word of the week, Springer. Yeah, this week the word is Springer. furfeathersfriends.com. Good luck. Hey, thank you, Omar. Thank you, George. Sure enjoyed your company. Got to get together a little bit more often than we do for both of you. And thank you if you left a comment on any of the social platforms. If you left a rating at Apple Podcasts, most appreciative. We are made possible by our sponsors. Thank you all. Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, Trulock Choke Tubes, MidwayUSA.com, Pointer Shotguns, and High Viz Shooting Systems. Got some new material up there at findbirdhuntingspots.com. Take a look. Maybe go on a little hunting trip with me. Hey, I'm glad you could join me. I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation podcast.